better. And I think you are as well. And I'm really in that stage of like, how do I become the best man and person I can be? I have this saying that when I die, I want people to stand up, whether it's 5 people or 5 million people, that I was a great husband, a great father, and a great friend. And none of those things have anything to do with money, but they have everything to do with money, because money buys time, and time allows those things to be possible. What's going on, Real Dealz Podcast listeners? Coming at you this week with show 376. We got Danny Johnson on the show today, and this show was really fun for me in a lot of different ways, because we started out talking about his business, but Danny and I had talked before. We met a couple of years at a conference, and then we hadn't really talked that much, but we started asking each other questions, and we both had some really aha moments in some ways. And like, we both took notes of things we talked about during the show, and we both got done. We're like, hey, we need to go listen to this again. So it's kind of going on our theme a little bit of just having high level conversations with guys that we're constantly trying to make ourselves better and working on our business. And so I think, we talk about life, we talk about business, we talk about marriage, staying married, getting divorced, working with your spouse. Where did we go wrong? I'm not divorced, but he's getting divorced or got divorced. And so we talk about like, where did he go wrong? Obviously you always want to, think the other person did something wrong, but what could have we done better? That's all we can control, is what we do better, and so I took a lot of that to heart of, how do I be a better husband? My goal every week is to be a better husband, a better father, and a better friend. And I struggle a lot on the husband stuff sometimes and the father stuff, because I get stressed out with work. I have loaded my plate and I have a lot of different things going on, and we've hired a lot of people, and I have a lot of responsibility for those people. And so I build this stress up. And, sometimes at the end of the day, when you get home and your wife starts talking to you about work or this or what she did at work today, which is the same business, sometimes you just don't have any more capacity to handle that. And so sometimes I have a short temper. So really working on that. But it was really fun and really good, and I really enjoyed it. So hopefully you guys enjoy the conversation as well. So a couple of housekeeping items though. What's going on with us this week? Today I have my first sales team, all team sales meeting that we're doing. We have brought on a lot of different components. So we have a realtor, a person that we refer properties to in Tri-Cities. We have a realtor that we refer properties to in Vancouver. Also have my partner in Vancouver. We have our sales manager. We have an assistant to our sales manager, so a leads like follow-up manager. And we have my wife, and we have Carissa, which is our executive assistant. And so they work on the marketing side and kind of letting us know what's going on. And so a little nervous about that today. Just the first time we've all been together. I feel like we finally have the team. Both agents are awesome. We're getting consistently 1 to 2 referral checks a month, which covers majority of our marketing on the cold calling and the texting side of it. So that's awesome. But just trying to figure out, how do we work really well together? And is our CRM the right one? We're currently using Podio, but it's just kind of bulky in a lot of ways. Funny thing is, Danny he's built a CRM. He used to own Leads Propeller, or still owns it. I think he's in the process of selling it, but he's built out a CRM, and we've been searching and looking for a couple different ones. And we've kind of narrowed it down between his CRM and Justin Severio's CRM that's coming out in a couple months that we did a demo with. But his CRM, $137 a month. Like, it was awesome. Like the only reason we're having a hard time not going is because we do a lot of marketing with Justin, open letter marketing. And so, but it was simple. It was convenient. It was well thought out. Everything worked. And, unlimited people on your team can be there for $137 a month. So really enjoyed that. So I'm excited to maybe use that and switch over, because Podio is just kind of tough to use. Other than that, I got really overwhelmed and stressed this week on Wednesday. I didn't sleep well, got up early. I slept like 3.5 hours, got up at 5, couldn't fall back asleep, went to the office, knocked out some work for the Instagram. Then I was in a good mood, showed up to the gym early, ready to go. And then I just had a couple of things that happened, which is normal business stuff. That's not normally a big deal, but it kind of just got me in a bad spot. And so I was working, and right around 1:30, I'm like, you know what? F this. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to go relax. I'm going to go reset for the day and just take care of some mental health. So sometimes you need to do that. Mental health is a real thing. I work really hard on my mental health with, therapists, with going to the gym. But, there's sometimes when you just get overwhelmed and stressed. And those are the times I know I make bad decisions, or I say things to people I shouldn't say. And so sometimes it's okay. I can make up the work later. I can do the stuff I need to do later, but let me just take a step back. Let me take some breaths. Let me go take a quick nap. Let me go reset. And it helped a lot. I also had my mom, my dad, and my stepmom coming over, and some family coming over that night. And it's just a different dynamic. And so I think I was a little stressed about that. So I don't know, just know that this business is not always sunshine and rainbows. There is stress. We're dealing with big sums of money. We're dealing with people's livelihoods. We're dealing with people's biggest assets. We're trying to do deals in this weird economy that everybody's really unsure of what's going to happen. So there's a lot of things that stress you out, but you got to push yourself out of that comfort zone to get where you really want to go. But there's going to be days if you're out of your comfort zone that are going to be tough and they're going to be hard. And so you need to be okay resetting and saying, okay, I just need to take a break for myself, or I need to go for a walk, or I need to go to the gym, or I just need to go sit by the river for an hour or something, or meditate, something like that. And I think it really helps you reset and see things in perspective, that we are very fortunate to get to be doing what we're doing. I'm very fortunate to deal with the problems that I have, because dealing with these problems means I'm making money and I'm running a business, and the challenges happen. So anyway, guys, hope you have a great week. Here's a quick word from our week's sponsor, and we'll catch you on the next one. What's going on, Real Dealz Podcast listeners? Got Danny Johnson on the show today. He is a two-time, this is the second time coming on, I think, or third maybe, but he's been on with Tucker in the past. So we were talking the other week and we're like, hey, we should get you back on the show. You got some new things coming up in your business. Life's kind of changed a little bit, and thought we would kind of get into it. So Danny, why don't you jump in and kind of tell people who you are, and then we can kind of get going from there.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Elliot. I remember we met and had lunch at, I forgot what it was.
It was like the IMN conference.
Oh, yeah.
It was a single family rental conference in Scottsdale, I think.
Was that it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, it seems like ages ago, but yeah, thanks for having me on. I guess I got started in real estate 2003. So long time ago. Before that, my father was a contractor actually for a real estate investor that was pretty successful in San Antonio. And so I got to grow up doing some of the demo and stuff with him as a kid, and seeing how hard that was, and thinking, dude, I don't want to work like this whenever I get older. So I went to school and got a degree in computer science to be a software developer. And I graduated, started doing that, was in an office and just like thinking, man, I don't know, this is like, I'm not being challenged at this job. It was, I had to get a top secret clearance and all that kind of stuff to do the work.
Nice.
Thinking it would be like super cool and like I'd be programming warheads, or I don't know what I was thinking I was going to do, but it wasn't at all like that. It was really kind of boring. And at that time, my dad actually started learning how to flip houses from the person he used to work for. And, he was just having so much fun. I mean, it was just like changed his life. He was talking about all the deals he was doing and just like driving around town. For some reason, to me, hearing about somebody being able to drive around town all day long and like not having to actually be anywhere for any particular thing, just is like my ultimate, like, man, I want to do that,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's like being sick from school when you're like, watching TV and you're like, everybody else is in science class or something.
Yeah.
That feeling of that. So that was kind of what got me wanting to do it. And I bought a HUD house for my first house, fixed that one up, lived in it for several years and sold it. But while I did that, so that one took me like 9 months to find. It took me like 9 months to get a deal. I made a bunch of offers and I was starting to think, my dad's got the touch, but I don't. I can't find a deal.
Yeah.
And so, 9 months to find that one. The next one I think maybe was, I took a little bit of time off, but it was maybe like 4 months or something. And then they just started coming in. I started doing deals. And, we did that. I did that. I was still working that job for like 3 years.
Okay. Now, were you finding stuff on the MLS, or were you making offers with agents, or what were you doing?
I tried all that stuff, man. It was like making offers with agents because the market was pretty hot back then, like 2004, 2005.
Yeah, it was running up to do something bad, I think, in a few years.
Yeah. So it was, the MLS was tough, man. I hated spending a whole day making offers just to get nothing back, and or to be told constantly multiple offers, highest and best,
Yeah.
and all, which everybody now is familiar with too, right?
Yeah.
And so I started doing motivated seller marketing, just direct marketing to motivated sellers, much better. So it was driving for dollars was the start, sending those postcards, sending those letters, putting out bandit signs back then.
Where did you learn how to do that back? Because were people teaching that back then too? Doing direct mail?
No, I don't know. It was called driving for dollars still. And it was just like go. And I don't know that there was a bunch of science behind it, right? There wasn't the list that you could get that you could do all the different things with.
Yeah.
Right. You basically maybe could get absentee owner list, but we mostly built ours just by driving around, look for the rundown properties.
Okay.
Which to me worked really, really well. And we were able to do that. And I got fired from my job, went full time, and really ran that business for the next, with my ex-wife. We did that for 6 years full time, 7 years before we hired anybody.
Okay.
And that was like crazy, because it was like having success and doing a good number of deals, but then trying to have more success by doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? The only way you can do that is to work more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It doesn't work very well, but it's funny because we've had employees here and there a little bit, but they never worked out great. But we just hired, I got executive assistant. I have a full-time sales manager. I have an assistant for my sales manager. And then the call center, I have a right-hand man in the call center. We just hired another maintenance guy as well for our apartment stuff. But we just ramped up our payroll, and it's like, this is so nice, but it's also really scary, right? Because now all of a sudden we have all this overhead, and it's like, okay, now we have to perform. So it's like a different level of like, you're running and working your ass off by yourself with just your wife and you, versus now you're running, working your ass off to keep your employees busy and have them make money. You know what I mean? Give them opportunities.
Yeah. It's a maturing in business, I think, and really looking back, the good thing about hindsight, right? Looking back and seeing everything with clear 2020, that, it was really kind of treating the business like a hobby. I mean, it wasn't taking it very seriously. It was, this idea in my head that, because I did a lot of looking at why the heck didn't I hire anybody? What was I afraid of? What was I thinking, right? I was in a different place. And really what I was thinking was, if I hire somebody, then we do have to keep things operating for them to stay busy, and we got to manage them. And if I don't hire them, then I can just take a 3-month vacation and not do anything in business. Yep. Which is completely false. Right. Because in the situation we were in, because
I agree with you, because you're telling my story. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just like thinking about like how I thought about it too. So yeah, keep going.
I was like, we could take a 3-month vacation. When did we ever do that? We never did, because we had to keep it all going, man. There was like no way. I was scared to death to go on vacation. I mean, we did, but I was taking calls and I was like, damn, that's a super motivated seller, and I got nobody to go look at it. I got to wait till I get back. It's going to be gone. Right. Like, I mean, it doesn't, like, you have these thoughts and ideas of how things are going to be, and then like, it just doesn't work out that way. But you don't even realize you're still thinking that same way. Yeah. Right. Like the 6 years of like short vacations should have told me that I'm not good to go on a vacation for 3 months. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I remember we went to Southeast Asia for a month. So Christy and I, when we moved back to Tri-Cities, we worked for like 3 years. I was golfing 150 rounds a year. We were working like 15, 20, 30 hours a week, flipping 20, 25 houses. Good life, nothing. Same thing like you, right? It was a hobby business. But I would close a deal in the Bali International Airport at 7:30 with somebody. I'm on the phone and I'm locking up this deal. I'm like, shit, I got to go friggin' get the contract over to him. I remember it would be like 3 a.m. my time, or when we were over in Indonesia, and I'm up on the phone dealing with sellers and dealing with things because it's daytime back in the States. And I'm like, geez Louise, like, it was good, but it's like, you can't enjoy your vacation.
Yeah. You're still too much in the middle of everything. Like all the responsibility is on you. And so it took a lot to get past that, get beyond that. Because what I found was happening was, basically trying to have more success, because then the belief was, it was that ever leading carrot, right? That's always kind of you're chasing after, was, if we do enough volume, if we do enough revenue, then we're going to build up to where we're going to have the freedom to do stuff and have the time off. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that when you're still doing everything yourself? We start chasing after different marketing, like all the cool, like shiny object marketing that someone's coming out with, this new list or this new way to do this. And you're just chasing all that stuff. And then, you don't have the time to really get good at it. And then you're doing multiple marketing channels. So you're not really an expert in any of them anymore.
Yeah.
And stuff's just falling apart. Like leads and stuff are slipping through the cracks because you're so busy trying to generate so many leads. Actually, you know what? It was something that I realized after I wrote that book, Flipping Houses Exposed. Okay. And that was like 34 weeks in the life of a successful real estate investor, whatever. I documented every lead that I got in that book for 34 weeks. The reason why they were selling, how much they were asking, what I offered, all that stuff. I did 495 leads got generated in those 34 weeks, right? That's a crazy amount of like leads where people are saying, make me an offer on my house.
Yeah.
The thing was, when I went back and looked at that, I realized during those 34 weeks, I only did 11 deals. So out of like every 40 something people that said, make me an offer, I only bought one out of every 40 something, which is atrocious. It's just insane.
Yeah.
Right. And why the heck was that? Like, what the hell happened there? I was so conservative and trying to buy so low, which is okay. I mean, it's smart, it's safe. But the thing was, I was not following up. I had so much marketing come out, so many leads coming in, that what happened when each of those leads came in didn't have my full attention.
Yep. I only went after the low hanging fruit. I'd probably have similar numbers. And what Christy and my wife and I were actually talking about yesterday is there's so many different ways to do this business. And you need different things, but there's machine gun marketing, like you're cold calling, you're texting. There's your online marketing, like you've built really good platform for online marketing, for website marketing, PPC, SEO. And then there's like super sniper, like driving for dollars, tax delinquent, deaths, probates, delinquents, like super targeted direct mail stuff. Christy and I, our close rate and our overhead was way lower when we just went after just sniper stuff. And that's kind of how I teach people. I preach to people, like I could go to any city with $500 in my pocket and I can get deals, and I'll get better deals than most people really quickly because I very, very focused. But then what happens is you get lazy. We got lazy. So we had extra money. So we're like, well, let's spend more money on marketing because it's going to be easier lead flow. I don't have to go door knock these people. I don't have to build these files on these people. I don't have to do all these things that I don't really want to do, right? The hard work where those were actually the best deals and the best leads, right? And so you're like, I have all this money, so let's try friggin' Lead Propeller's website. Let's try SEO. Let's try PPC. Let's try cold calling and texting. And then you don't track any of your KPIs, and then you follow up with nobody, and then you're just blowing money, right?
Yeah, it takes a while before you realize.
Yeah, because everybody's selling you this new lead source, like you talked about earlier, this new lead source, this new marketing source. It's just crushing it. So you buy it, or this course or that course, right?
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, if we try that, we haven't tried that yet. That's where all the leads are coming in. That's how we're going to get all the deals. And I'm sure you've seen it too. And anybody listening that's been in this business long enough, you know that the people doing really well with scaling or growing their business are not doing a ton of different marketing channels or campaigns. Like they've got some key ones and they focus on those, right? Yep. They know all their numbers. They know what's going on with it, and they adjust if things start trending in the wrong way. But that was really the maturing of going from hobby to business, right? Like really looking at what the numbers were.
Yeah.
And so whenever it's just me doing the business, it's like in my head, or in my mind, I knew I spent this much, I got this many leads, then I got this many deals. I just need to raise all those numbers, which means put more money into it. Well, you're not measuring anything really. I mean, you kind of have a vague idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But measuring it is really kind of where it's at. Do you guys use EOS, the traction?
Yeah, we're starting to. Since we've hired all these people, we're starting to, because we've never done the KPIs really well. It was just see lead, work lead. If it's a good lead, go for it, right? And then now we're putting all the KPIs in, getting our systems way more organized so we can track like our spends on stuff. So yeah, I'm starting to put in level 10 meetings every week. Everybody has their role. Now we have the team built out, and I'm trying to get out of the way. Basically what we're trying to do is Christy and I were talking, when we were our best was when Christy and I were just tandem and it was just us two going after it. She would build the files and build the leads. and I would go door knock them, call them, close them. So we're trying to, our new executive assistant, we're trying to make a mini Chrissy, and my sales manager a mini Elliot. And that's really kind of how we track that. That's where we're going.
Nice. Yeah. And having those numbers, right? If you're tracking those KPIs religiously, then you kind of know the baseline. Here's where we're at. Here's where we need to be.
Yeah.
And then here's how you're being measured when you hire little Elliot.
Yeah.
You know, here's how we're going to measure whether you're doing a good job or not. Like, here's the numbers, right? Like, it's not some subjective thing. I don't think you're doing everything you can be doing, right? If you have the numbers, you don't care whether they're working the full 8 hours in the day, right? I mean, it's just like, as long as those numbers are improving or you know, you're owning those numbers, you know, that's really what it's all about. But what I like about, have you seen 90? Have you seen that 90.io?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so that's Traction. That they own the software or whatever, but it's the software to run those meetings.
Okay.
So you can put in your Vision Traction Organizer. I'm not an affiliate or anything. I don't get anything from mentioning them, but I like the way they show the KPIs week over week, because you can put the numbers in, and then when you have your meeting, you show the numbers and you can break it down by team.
What's it
Have
called?
your management numbers. What's that?
What's it called?
90.io.
This is the 90.io?
No, it's spelled out 90.
Okay. I'm going to pull it up so I remember to look at it.
And so they have the thing where you have the different KPIs for the different teams, and you can look at week over week. And I was like, you know, this is really great because it's making me every single week put something in here. And then we get to look at the trend, and then you have a goal and you can see, okay, it's below the threshold. We need to do something about it. So when you have your meetings, you're kind of really looking for the spots that need attention, right? And then we can have a discussion in the issues part of the L10 meeting and get into what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. We can address that before it becomes a big problem in the company. So before, without that kind of running of a true business, you know, it's sort of like, okay, we don't have enough deals this week or this month, really. I mean, it takes a while because you're like, oh, I'm hopeful because maybe next week I'll get more. Maybe even this quarter, right? Like you say, this month or this quarter, we didn't have enough deals. What are we going to do? And then it's just, well, we need to do more marketing. Well, there's so much lag in marketing, right? Like, you're not going to get marketing and all of a sudden it's just going. It takes a while to,
unless you're cold calling. Direct mail, yeah, but cold calling, now the lead quality is different. It's a more of a follow-up lead, but cold calling, like, I have guys that, like, hey, we're going to Tennessee, right? I had guys that last week they're transitioning to Tennessee. So we put 5 callers in, pulled a list, 5 callers. We got them in 4 days, 56 leads in Tennessee.
Nice.
Other guys to start working, right?
Yeah.
So, but now those leads you're going to get some low hanging fruit, but you're going to have a lot of follow-up leads and a lot more retail leads, right? So, but yeah, with your driving for dollars, your direct mail, those things take time to come in. I mean, we always say the sales cycle for cold call is a 3-month sales cycle from lead to follow up to close, right? So, but at least, you know, yeah, that's the hard part, is like being patient.
Right. Yeah. Because you want to fiddle, right? You're like, oh, it's not happening fast enough, or, you know, you want to change things and try to make the numbers better because you're in a hurry and you're making bad decisions, right? Because you're behind the power curve, right? At that point, you're like, your deal's already low, and so you're already stressed.
Yep.
Right, because you're not going to get what you normally do. So, but even just the leads, like the number of leads is just one of the metrics, right? I mean, that's, even if you did start cold calling, you start getting leads right away. There's other pieces of this, and this is where I'm going with this, is, you know, when we got to really treating it as a true business and saying, okay, we got this many leads coming in, but there's a whole bunch of steps, because I had 495 leads in that example, right? 34 weeks. And so at the end of the day, we ended up with 11 deals from that. So where in the middle do we have our problem?
Yep.
Right. Because obviously there was a problem. I mean, there's something wrong with those numbers. It wasn't working out right. And so then you can look at, you know, how many appointments were set, right? How many people you never even got a hold of, because that presents a problem, right? Like, some people were calling you and you just never got a hold of them again because you missed the live call or something like that.
Yep.
And then, you know, appointments set, how many appointments are canceled? Who canceled them?
Yeah.
Right. Especially if you got a team, you don't know if your team's starting to cancel stuff, or if the seller is, because you're putting the appointments too far out.
Yep.
You know, or something like that. You can really look at all of that stuff. Appointments attended, offers made, that number should be the same, right?
Yeah.
I don't know of a reason why you would ever not offer something if you went to an appointment.
Yeah. There's sometimes I won't make offers on things because from the sales perspective, my thought is, I think I can buy this house, but I think their expectations are unrealistic at this point. And so if I throw an offer out at where I need to be at this point, it's going to kill the conversation. Where if I just say, hey, I'm just not right, I'm not there right now. And I learned this from Tucker, you just do a soft pass, then you can keep them in your follow-up funnel and just be like, I just don't think I can get to your number, and, they might say, well, where you need to be, I got to be a lot less, and then instead of putting a number out there, you just leave it out there and then you just keep them in the follow-up cycle. But see, where I would always screw up is I would never follow up. I would never put them in the follow-up cycle. As you're talking, the biggest problem with our saying, because I guarantee our numbers would look very similar to your 495. The biggest problem in the situation was me.
Yeah.
I was the broken wheel in this whole thing.
And it takes a lot to realize that, accept that, own it, right? I mean,
yeah, because I wouldn't follow up. I'd only work low-hanging fruit. You get in a habit, you work the best leads, only the low-hanging fruit, and then you're running and gunning, or you want to go golfing, or you do these things. So you're like, oh, I'll follow up with them later. Then they get lost in your CRM because most CRMs suck, which hopefully you're solving that problem. But leads get lost. Podio works, but it doesn't work, right? So unless you're on it, consistently, that's the hard part. And most solo operators, that's where they're stuck right now. Is this where we're talking about?
One, I think because there's fear, right? That's the unknown. That's the next level of success, is moving beyond that, right? And it's okay. Well, I've gotten comfortable. I've got this going, but then what's ahead? What's behind the curtain that I don't know about in building a team? Because that scares me, responsibility wise.
Yeah.
Like, I was a shitty employee. Whenever I worked for a company, it's like I just imagine what it's like to have other people when I was the person that, I did my work, but I could have done so much more.
Well, let me ask you this question though, because I think there's so much noise out there in all these spaces that we talked about. There's so many podcasts out there, right? And a lot of these guys on Instagram that are, they're showing, oh, I'm doing hundreds of deals, right? So I think if we take a step back, where the question right now we're talking about is, do you stay solo, you and your wife, or do you grow this team? And it's hard to want to grow a team. But you also have to define what you want your life to look like. Do my wife and I could have lived a really good life, flipping 20 to 25 houses a year, making a couple $200,000-$300,000 a year, buying some rentals, and just work 20 hours a week. But now we've defined a different role. But what is your definition of a good life, right? And is your life building a team?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And really, honestly, usually I would say, figure out what you want your life to look like, and then base your things on that. But I think, just as you were saying that, though, this idea was coming up about that doesn't, and like I said, I would always agree with that before, but this time, for some reason, I feel like there's something more, though, because there's the part of, if I felt like my life, it'd be great to have the lifestyle, right? I want to be able to go do this stuff. I want to go to the beach. I want to take trips. I want to do all this other kind of stuff. But there's also this aspect of us that we as entrepreneurs want to grow. We want to challenge ourselves. So that will never be totally fulfilling to just have the time to do those other things, because part of what we are just people that we want to.
I'm with you 100%. So my wife asked me this question because we went from pre-pandemic doing buying some rentals, our 20, 25 houses. And then all of a sudden I started a call center, and then we bought an apartment, and I'm like, let's keep doing all these things. And I'm go, right? I got 5 things going now. My wife asked me the other day, cause she's, got stressed about something. She says, our whole goal when we got married was to build financial freedom. And with real estate was to build financial freedom. And we've hit that goal. What are you doing? What are we pushing for? And I said the same thing. I'm having a shit ton of fun right now doing what I'm doing. I'm okay not golfing right now. I'm okay with just working and being a dad because I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this part. It's a season of life. Maybe we build it, then we go back. So, but it is that thing. Like, it's not about making more money. It's about, I'm solving problems. I'm challenging myself. I'm waking up excited to go do this and this, because it's different things to get better. And I want to get better as not only as a business owner, but as a person. And if I'm not pushing myself in one area, I'm probably not pushing myself in the other area. Right.
Yeah, just something there for what we're drawn to, what we're attracted to. And yeah, I think there is something there to be careful about what other people want for us.
Yeah.
I'm not saying your wife either, but I'm just saying, being honest with what we want, because we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and you had said something interesting, because I was asking you were saying all these things that you were doing, which is really cool. But I said, how do you do it? Like, how are you, or maybe you asked me, how do you do it where you manage all these different?
No, I think it was you asked me. Yeah. Cause I was the one I had. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you told me, well, it's like, you build up and then you have to have somebody come in and kind of take care of that. And I just try to stick to taking care of the parts where my strengths are. Right.
Yeah. I'm pairing back to like what I'm really good at is I'm a connector, and so my whole goal is to connect the call center with big clients and put bigger deals together, and talk to guys like you with, like we did about the data. The real estate development apartment side, I just need to find work the deals with my team, figure out how to put the deals together. Then I manage the expectations on a higher level but then I also raise money. But like we're doing 60 lot development. I don't know shit about putting streets in, nor do I care about how to put streets in. We're building a 13 unit. I don't know how to build a 13 unit, let alone care how to build a 13 unit. Just let me raise the money. Let me put the vision idea together and partner with people that can do it. Same with we have 66 doors under management. We closed a 25 unit a month ago. As soon as I was done, I called my partner we bought it with 50-50. I said, best day of the year for me, because I'm done. I don't know anything about tenants. I don't know anything about turnovers. I don't know anything about rehabs. I don't deal with any of it anymore. I'm done. The deal's closed. I'm done. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get. But now I got to train mini Elliots. I'm telling my guys, I got to download my brain into Spencer, my brain into Tony, the guys underneath me that are my right hand, to get them up to enough of my level so they can make decisions without bugging me all the time.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah, that is, and I'm there with the software company too. So here's the thing, right? Like this is, when we talked, you said during the podcast, you were going to ask questions to get to things that were, maybe some people aren't comfortable sharing, about the real situation, right? About what they're doing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I think it's more needed because so many people just flashing stuff, fancy cars and all these things I'm doing. And then behind the scenes are stressed beyond belief. Right.
Yeah.
But in the middle of all of this, with the software that I've been doing, the house business success for so long, built it up, had it where we had a team built, and then I was able to focus most of my time on the software, and then all my time even onto the software in the past. And then now with the software, I found that I've been operating, this is like I think this is like maybe the 8th iteration of the software. Because I built it for me in the beginning, and then it like grew and grew and changed and changed.
Now,
but
software,
honestly,
you're not talking props, your propeller.
No,
propeller.
this
you're
is
talking
the
CRM.
Forefront CRM. This is like,
okay.
We just launched Forefront, right? I mean, but it's actually like the 9th iteration. Why the heck is that? Because I talked to Don Costa. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I know.
And we were in the conversation, and he said, and some people, because of fear, they'll build something up, then they'll tear it down and rebuild it, because that's just like, that's the thing that they enjoy, and they, and then they'll just tear it all up. And then,
right? They're inventors. It's an inventor syndrome. You're an inventor syndrome, right? You're a tinker.
Yeah. And he goes, and that's what you're doing. I was like, well, crap. It's just it's like, I think you're right, man. It's like, it's not good enough. No, it's just that, the next step is kind of scary to me. It's the whole promotional part of it. It's the responsibility of it, and in the software company, we had at one point built it up to 19 people.
God, oh, shit.
And that's a lot to manage. And I did not do well at managing it. I mean, it was, it was where I expected people, I hire them and say, own your position.
Yeah.
Like, you figure it out, I'll adjust with you as you go, but it's on you to come up with ideas and do stuff. Cause I'm busy with my own piece. Like, I'm busy with all this stuff. That's not a way to run it. Right. And so I'm kind of in the rebuilding phase of the software part of it, where I've got to do all the promotion now, because we're down to a team of 7. We're lean and mean. I mean, I don't have social media people. I don't have all this kind of stuff. We're building this back up. And I'm not excited about it. I just want to take the easy route and tear it up and start another one.
Do you have an integrator? Because you're a visionary. That's what you are. I mean,
I
hands
do
down.
not. I do not have an integrator.
See, that's what I found. So I am you to a T. Like I even have to put it on my calendar to block out 5 hours a week to train my guys to download my brain, because I'm just like, go do it, figure it out. I literally said that to Spencer the other day. I want you to be able to tell me what you need from me, and you take ownership of this role. He doesn't know what he's got to own, because so he's texting me 100 times a day, right? Which is fine. I want him to bug me, to learn it. But what I found, and I tell people all the time, I would literally wipe shit off Tucker's shoes to learn from him. Tucker is a master CEO. Like Tucker's genius is not only that he can have a vision, but he is also knows how to put the chess pieces at a really high level. But his demeanor is so calm and level that he can be patient. He can take the time. Teaches people really well. He empowers people really well. I don't do any of those. I don't do a lot of those things really well. I'm very up and down, like, let's go get everybody rah, rah, rah excited. And then I'm at step 7 where they're still at step 2, and I'm expecting them to know step 2 to 7. And I've never explained shit. Right. And so that's the struggle. Right. Or like I say off the cuff, my wife calls it speaking Elliot. I'll give you 80% of what I need from you, but not the 20% important. So that my team's like, what did he just say? What do I need?
Yeah. Like we processed it in our minds, but we didn't share that process. We didn't share what the output was, like what the end result of all that thought was, and they have no clue.
Yeah. Or I'm giving instructions. I did it this morning to Spencer, and I'm like, I need you to do these things, this thing, this thing, this thing. But I'm skipping over things, and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm on a different person, even though I haven't finished what he needs to do for this person. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me reset and go back. Step 1 is this. Step 2 is this. And he's like, all right. But then he makes me send him voice memo. So I process it out, because I'll send. It's hard.
But this is the real stuff. This is where I think a lot of us get hung up. I know I get hung up here, right? So how do we move beyond this? How do we move beyond it? And the reason why I brought it up was because, even just this week, I'm like, okay, I've had a podcast for a long time. I'm starting a new podcast. I've got a new website, the new version of the software that's completely rebranded, so nobody even knows about it. And then like all this kind of stuff. And I need a content calendar, right? Because otherwise I'll create some posts and I'll get busy, and I won't do that for like 2 or 3 more months. Yeah. So it's like, I need this content calendar. And, typically I would just kind of plan that out and say, forget it. That's it. Like, I can't follow structured stuff very well, but I'm seeing it from a different perspective now. Like I'm setting it up because as I'm doing it, I'm going to create all those processes. So I'm only setting it up to figure out how I want it done and do it a couple times. And then that becomes my, expectations for who I'm going to hire to replace myself for that piece.
But how are you holding yourself accountable to get them done? I can put it on the calendar all the time. I want that I have a content day, but if I don't have anything holding me accountable to that content, then it doesn't get done. Something else more important comes up. Right.
Right. And so, I'm the same way, but since I'm like, I see my goal though, is to hire somebody to take care of that for me. I'm willing to go ahead and push through and make myself do it until then, because I know it's really just to get what I want. Right. And not because if I don't do that and I just hire somebody, I'm just hiring somebody and saying, you take this problem over. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden then I'm not happy with what they're doing because they're not thinking from my perspective of what I wanted.
So I have a suggestion. I have 2 interns working for me for free, and I'm teaching them real estate, and they're running my content. So I have one guy he's a professor actually at a college. He's about my age, but he's really, really good at structuring and building content and like building a brand and also building courses and stuff. And I have a 19-year-old girl that is handling and managing posts on my Instagram. And then I have one paid editor. So we had a brand meeting last week for an hour. I get a chirp in of where I want, because we're building my brand. I hired a media team as well. So they have their opinions. And so I just got a list yesterday of here's our posts. Here's when we need the content by you. Here's what we want in the content, because this is the strategy that you said you wanted to have. And so we built out the strategy, the roadmap for you. And now I'm accountable because I'm a people pleaser. So I don't want to let them down. and waste their time. So now I'm accountable to them, and everybody's winning because they get to come along. They get to learn real estate. I get to connect them with people. I give them, I do cold calling and do some free stuff for them as well. But I add value. Like you could give them a free CRM and help show them how to build direct mail campaigns and all these things to help buy houses. But there's people that are really good at those things that I'm shitty at. So
yeah. So how did you find those people?
Posted on my Instagram. One guy applied off of my job ad here in Tri-Cities, but I stole that from Brandon Turner. Brandon Turner gets interns to work for him at a drop of a hat. He gets guys to move to Maui and work at a low wage basically as an intern at a drop of a hat.
I'll move to Maui and work at a low wage to be an intern.
Yeah. But you have something people want, right? I have something people want. They want to know how to buy houses and start their dream life that we've all dreamed of, right? And their financial freedom. They'll figure out where we're at now later down the road. But they just need to know how to get started. They need to know how to negotiate deals and talk to sellers and how to build some systems and processes and kind of bootstrap these things. You have that you can do that in 2 hours a week with somebody. Well, how much time is it going to take you to build out this whole plan? A lot more than 2 hours a week. So, but they're more willing to do that because they have time in their hands. As long as they have access, I give them access to my cell phone. They call me, I answer questions. I listen to seller calls that they've had. I do everything they need help with, and it's a fair trade. Isabel, actually, when I went to New York a couple weeks ago, she actually drove me around she was our chauffeur for 4 days. And she got to listen to guys in the car while we're talking about high level stuff. She got to enjoy some of the stuff, but she was giving back to me, because I'm giving her stuff to her. And then I'm also invested in her now because she gave all this time. So now I want to help her win.
Nice. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I wrote down, maybe not do it all and then build the processes, hire and train and do the building while the training is happening.
Yeah, because the problem that I'm having right now is I have so many things going on that there's certain things that I don't have the brain capacity to go learn how to do it, right? I don't even know how to learn how to do TikTok. I don't even want to go learn how to do TikTok. I don't want to learn how to go build an Instagram. I don't want to learn how to build my brand. But there's people that are really good at it already. So, and I say this all the time to like these doctors that will go out and they'll buy 1 or 2 rentals. I'm like, why don't you go spend your time being a really good effing doctor and make a ton of money and put your money with somebody that's a really good operator and buying real estate? You're going to win way more at the end of the day. Like, yeah, that's kind of my realization this year is how do I get 99% of the shit out of my brain and just be really good at some things. And I learned that from Brandon. Honestly, he just shows up. That's all he does. He just shows up. He does, and everybody else does everything else for him. And he only shows up for like raising money, doing the podcast, doing his Instagram. That's his goal.
Nice.
So how do you do that? I mean, how in your business, like, how do you do that? How would you do it? I guess. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to figure. But you're right. I mean, you're putting the energy then into figuring that out, right? Having that plan and having that, because the problem is like, it's still, I guess, operating in a place of doing a lot more than what we should be doing. I'm still doing more of the things that I shouldn't be doing. That's taking me away from being the business operator, really working on my business. I'm still working too much in the business.
Yeah, because like your goal is you're connected pretty well. You have a new CRM, right? What should you be doing? Your only job should be selling your CRM, right? You've built it. Your job is talking to guys like me and say, Elliot, how do I sell this better? How do I do it better? Who do I need to get with? Like we were talking about those guys the data guys that we were talking about, right? They go to different influencers and different people and they partner with these guys. So your job is using your connections to be like, hey, let me show you my new CRM, push it to your students. Push it to this, right? I wouldn't think your job should be any more tinkering with the CRM. You may get feedback now and then send it to your development team of what needs to be better. But your job is just talking on the phone 24 hours a day or Zoom meetings, selling and building relationships.
Yeah. What am I doing here?
You're building a relationship, right?
No, this is actually what I'm doing.
What you should be doing, right? You're building a relationship.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea of like, because that's going to move the needle, right?
Yeah, no, this is helpful because you're right. It's like the slow growth stuff, like, content marketing, which is I think necessary, right? But that, like, right now is not the time for that. Right now is the time to really promote and do those things that really move the needle, like you just said, talking to the influencers. That's huge. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the same thing we're in, but see, guys, and as we're going, we're both kind of having these moments, right, where we're figuring shit out together, and this is why I like doing this show, is because it's beneficial and it's connecting with people. Like, I can call people all over the country. Like, I wanted to meet this guy, Aaron, right? And you were like, I know Aaron, let me connect you with this guy. Or like the other day, Isabel, I was talking to this guy from GoBundance, and he's in New Jersey. Isabel needs like, my mentor's name was Corey, and she needs somebody like on the ground that knows what they're doing in New Jersey. She's buying in New Jersey. Let's connect you two. Everybody wins. So like, my job is just to put people in the same room together that can move everybody's needle. I think that's and that's why, people want to go out of this business. Like, you and your wife went alone for so long. We went alone for so long. Is I can do it myself. I don't need anybody else. I can do it. But you can go so far in this business with other people. Just take less of the pie. The pie's going to get so freaking huge. Right. And just have good ethics and morals, and always remember who helped you. This world is just, especially right now, dude, there's so much opportunity in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. I just interviewed somebody for the new podcast the other day that was saying, they were afraid to hire people because of, if I hire people, they're going to take a piece of the pie. And then to like overcome that, hire somebody, the hire acquisitions person. He said within that first year, they quadrupled his revenue.
Yeah.
He's like, and he just got a lot bigger pie, and the guy's taking a piece out. He's getting way more than he ever got. Yeah. And he's not doing all the work.
Yeah. I had this last week after I got off that brand meeting, and I'm like, and I have Carissa, our exec assistant, doing some stuff. I have Tony answering the phone calls, and I'm like, okay, we haven't seen all the fruit yet, right? We're still in that growth phase and everybody's learning. We're getting there, but it was the coolest feeling to now I'm the captain. I'm now the admiral of this fleet, right? I am now planning this fleet out of where we're going, and I'm being strategic, but I'm not the one driving the boats. I'm not the one shooting the guns. I'm not the one boarding the other ships. I'm just being strategic and empowering people to be really good at what they're supposed to be really good at. But it's fucking scary because you're going into battle, right? And do I have enough ammo? Do I have enough ammo to do this? Am I going to get a surprise attack from this? You have to think about all these things, and how do I not get my guys killed, or how do I keep them paid? How do I do all these things? It's freaking scary. Like, we're scared. I mean, my wife and I were right now, and sorry, I'm not trying to take away from your like interviewing you, but I think this is all relevant. Like, we were carrying 10 to 15 flips at a time. And during the pandemic, we hit the brakes, and now we're down to like 2, and we hired all these people, and that's usually our revenue. And it's like, we're seeing our bank account. We just bought this, took 300 grand and bought a 24 unit on our half. And now our revenue is going like this, and we don't have a bunch of flips. It's fucking scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, same with you. I'm sure with your CRM, I mean, you had 15, 17 people. Like, you're just seeing that bank account go like this on salaries.
Yeah, that's how it was. And we got lean and mean, but yeah, I mean, it really pushes you to make those calls or make those decisions, right? Like, the pressure will force you to do some things that you don't normally, or to overcome the fears too. So I don't know. I feel like it's one of those necessary things, right? You're just put in the fire again to grow.
Yep. How do you do it though, where I have a tendency, like, when I get stressed, like, I need to go do it myself. How do you, because I can do it better than you can, instead of still empowering people? How do you manage that? Like, forcing yourself to like stop, like, and let them do it.
I don't know, because I want to say that I do still, a lot of the times I still do it myself, and I know it's not smart, but whenever I do, okay, so no, I guess that does happen a lot, but if I'm just being honest, but what I do for that though is, here's a really good example. So we have a team that was managing some other software that no longer needed to manage that. And I'm like, here we are, where we've launched this thing. It's all promotion now. Now this team that's no longer supporting something is sitting there, And it's like, I'm doing all this stuff and I know that they can do something. It's not really their job role, but hey, why don't I come up with some stuff to empower them to come up with their own things to do promotion as well. And so now these guys are like having a lot of fun going off. I feel like they're having a lot of fun, like doing some stuff to help with the promotion, right? So it's just recruiting and then, letting them come up with ideas of how they're going to do it. And then, because I said, I want a list of the ideas you have for promotion that you guys can do. I want to know how you plan on doing it, how you're going to measure it, and what the result that you expect to have is for each of these.
Yeah.
Right. That way they can come up with it. I don't need to bark orders and say, you guys do this, this, and this. They come up with it. They come up with how to be measured, meaning, hey, we're going to be measured on this. So we need to come up with realistic expectations and actually show that we're doing these things. So it's been working out pretty good.
Yeah. So what is your revenue streams right now? Because you said you're not, okay, first off, did you buy a bunch of rentals? Do you have rentals? Do you have flips going still? Like, what is your revenue streams right now?
Yeah. So I have one flip still going. I do wholesale, and then I do have rental properties.
Okay.
And that's what I'm picking up now. I'm trying to focus on rentals, and then I wholesale stuff that doesn't make sense as rental for me.
How many rentals do you have?
Rentals, I had that divorce last year. So rentals I have, I think it's something like 10. And then I have notes, real estate notes.
Sorry about the divorce.
Yeah.
Here's where we get in the deeper stuff. What caused it?
What caused it?
Because, and I'm gonna preface with why I asked that question. My wife and I have been married 8 years, and we're growing a business, and we've had lots of ups and downs. My wife handed me divorce papers 3 years in. We've made it through. Having kids and being married is really freaking hard.
Yeah.
And so, you can have all the success in the world, but I mean, money doesn't matter at some point, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, and that question is really hard. It's like from whose perspective, and I mean, there were circumstances that couldn't be overcome.
Well, I think there's a root cause at the end of the day, right? Because everybody who gets married, they're happy, right, at some point. But then there's certain things, and I maybe not. What caused it? What could you have done better looking back on it? And what are some of the things that, obviously at some point when you get divorced, you're probably like, I hate that person. You're really pissed. But if you look back to the times where you were happy or things were going down that road, what could you have done better? And do you have kids?
Yes.
Too? Okay. So.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, right? Yeah, it's still really hard. But the things that I could have done better are just I think it's really like to really look at, well, I guess one thing would be like counseling. Like, my mentor, whenever we were getting married, said, you guys should go to counseling first. We're like, oh, what do we need that for? Like, we're in love. And
yeah,
you know what I mean? It was just like,
yeah,
this whole thing. And I'm sure there was a lot of fear there and what that might uncover. But the counseling part of it, being willing to work on yourself and really dig into the stuff that we're coming from, we're operating from, the stuff that triggers us. Really this whole idea of I'll work on me for you. I'll take care of myself for you. Not each person relying on the other person to make them feel better or be a certain way so that everything is okay for them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes 100% sense, because I'm in counseling right now for just trying to figure out why I do a lot of the things I do, a lot of past traumas and things that I've dealt with. And a lot of times it goes to my marriage. And what I'm hearing you're saying is, I'm in control of my happiness, not your happiness.
Right.
But if I'm happy and present, that gives you the opportunity to be happy and present, But if I'm only working to make you happy and not what makes me happy, then all of a sudden I'm pissed off all the time because I'm not happy, and then nobody's fucking happy, right?
Yeah,
and then I resent you because I feel like you're the root that's causing me not to be happy.
Yeah, and then all kinds of things come off of that, right? There's all kinds of side effects and problems, that arise when, at the end of the day, we're projecting our crap onto somebody else, and when that person is our spouse, like on both sides, right? Like it's just, it's not pretty. It's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I'm working really hard in a lot of ways of like, one example, I struggle with, like abandonment stuff. I was adopted and then my parents got divorced in like 6th grade and I was really close to my dad. And then I had some youth pastors in middle school that I was really close with. And then God called him to a new church and never hear from him again. Same thing happened again when I started doing drinking and started drinking at 16, same youth pastor I was super close with, got called to a new church, never hear from him again. Grandpa died at 18. Or when I was 21, right before I went to rehab, and I blame myself because we were so close that, the reason he died was because I went to rehab. So, and then trying to so I'm always been this person, try to be, put a good face on for people, like my parents were always unhappy. So I look at me, look how good I'm doing. So you're happy, I'll make you happy. But I'll go to my dad sometimes and I could tell him, I could tell my dad I made $10 million last week. I made $10 million. He'll tell me how I could have made $100 million doing something else. No joke. We talk about this, but so it's funny. You're dealing with these things. So you have all these life things that you come up with and these mental things, and then you bring them into a marriage and you think when you have all these endorphins, everything's going to be fine. and endorphins go away. You're like, who the fuck are you? It's real life.
I don't know. I mean, there's always like a positive to everything. And, it really helped to see how my life had become really controlled. And, it's like the same stuff day in, day out, right? It was like, there was no, it just, I guess, whenever we were in Hawaii and like Grand Wailea, beautiful resort, beautiful place. And I was like looking out over the Pacific and stuff and going, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Because I got all this like success and money and we're here and I'm not happy. It's just like, what's up with that?
Yeah. Yeah. Chris, we
yeah.
have this talk all the time. We're in this. And that's why I ask, because, and this is why, I take the Real Dealz name to heart, right? This is real, right? You can have your Instagram life where everything looks really good, but the things that matter the most, being a good present father and being a good present husband and actually liking the other person, it's really fucking hard. It just is, especially running businesses together. I mean, did your wife run the business with you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It made it a partnership. I mean, it made it like to where it was really, it was kind of hard to see where business and the relationship started and ended. I mean, it was pretty difficult.
Yeah. Cause then like Christine, I'll get in these traps of, we talk about business and we talk about Monty, but then you wake up one day and you're like, what do we have in common? What are we friends? And so we're like, how do we connect on a different level other than business and kid? It is hard. So, I mean, I think Christine and I did a joint show on Bigger Pockets. Anybody getting into this with their spouse or doing things with their spouse, I think the one thing that helped us has helped us a lot was we really segmented our business. She makes decisions for X and I don't make any decisions for X. I make decisions for Y. She makes 0 decisions. And there's a very small part that we come together on. Then what happens is you build these resentments, you're pissed at them about something else. And then you try to boss them around about doing their job better. And but you're really just taking something else out on them.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough. I don't know that I would want to go into business again with a partner. I mean, I don't. Yeah.
With a wife partner or a partner?
No, with a wife partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I would. I mean, I'm sure. So a lot of this has caused me to really delve into a lot of like spiritual stuff, like spirituality and things like that, which has been really good because a lot of it is like you were saying, how do you start to relate? How do you ever find the interest in the other person and all that kind of stuff? And, I started meditation and going to a Buddhist center. Like I really like a lot of what they do because a lot of it's like the compassion and curiosity. So it's always, about having a life of curiosity, staying curious.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's really what's required in relationships. I mean, it's like having compassion that the other person's coming from their own perspective and then being curious about that and being curious about who they are as a separate person and all that kind of stuff. And I just, with all relationships, but
yeah,
it's the practice of always being mindful of that.
Yeah. I agree. The problem, like I can be curious about you because we only talked a handful of times, right? But you live with this person all the time. So you tend to overlook the relationships that are closest to you, right? Because maybe in my mind, I'm like, oh, I can work with Danny on this and that. And I'm curious about you, but we can do this together and this together and this. And then we're finding these new things out. But now you already know what you're.
But here's the thing. It's like an example of a good friend of mine. He said, you know, the other day I asked my wife, I was like, hey, when did you get this painting? And she said, it's been up for like 3 years. And, you know, it's this whole thing of where, you know, if you don't stop to take time to really notice things, you know, because we feel like, I don't know, I'm not speaking for myself. I would feel like I needed to do a bunch of things. Like I have this plan, I got this thing, and I feel like I've got to get to this point. And so any bandwidth that I give to something else is taking away from that. That's how I was feeling. Yeah. And so it was like, I couldn't stop and take the time to be curious and look around and say, oh my God, look, I've never bothered to look at this wall in my house.
Yeah.
You know, just taking the time to just like drop the other crap for a little bit. And it is a practice. It's not something you decide to do and you just can do it. It's really a practice that has to be, you know, taken on seriously. And that's, I don't know. I think that for me, at least, that's where my work has been lately. And it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm in very high price counseling. But that's why I try to surround myself. I was telling you should get in GoBundance, right? Is because they focus on like the 6 pillars and they're all weighted equally. It's, you know, it's wealth, health, spouse, family, experiences, things like that. And so how do you, because we get, as entrepreneurs, like we were talking about earlier, is we get so caught up and focused in your software business or flipping houses or in building a call center, building these things, and you forget about your health, your family, you know, all these other things that just get pushed aside because you get so caught up in this fucking thing that doesn't really matter at the end of the day, right? I mean, it does, but it doesn't.
We're too attached to it. We feel like we have to control and make it happen. Yeah. And I think that's the, you know, the whole thing with a lot of spiritual stuff is the whole letting go.
Yeah.
Right. Trusting God and letting go and letting it happen as it's supposed to happen.
Like they say, hey, let go and let God.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But also I think, you know, I think, you know, taking this back to why this is powerful, that I feel like this conversation was powerful for me, but just for anybody listening, is because if you can get right with your example, your spiritual side or your spouse side, or these things that are the day-to-day things, it makes you so much of a better business owner because it allows you to let go of other things because you are forcing yourself to, right? Because you're figuring out like, I shouldn't be doing this because I need to be spending time with my wife or my kids, and I need to be able to be present in the moment. And how do I do that? Well, I hire a team that can help me do these things, right? So I can turn my phone off for 2 hours a night and just be in the moment on the floor with my 2.5-year-old cooking on his place stove, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Instead of sitting there cooking on the place stove, looking at your phone and thinking all these other things you can be doing instead of just being in the moment. And it's hard. So hard. This podcast took a total different turn because it's just funny because it's, you know, I get these moments where I'm just like, I'm trying so hard at life. And guys, I think that's the thing is you're always trying to get better. And I think you are as well. And I'm really in that stage of like, how do I become the best man and person I can be? You know, I have this saying that when I die, I want people to stand up, whether it's 5 people or 5 million people, that I was a great husband, a great father, and a great friend. And none of those things have anything to do with money, but they have everything to do with money because money buys time and time allows those things to be possible. But if all you do is focus on making money, then you don't do any of those things.
Yep. And then someone's saying balance. So yeah, it's not like,
there's no balance.
It's the whole trick of all of it. I mean, but I guess it's not taking things so seriously, right? I mean, all of it, not taking any of it so seriously because we get too caught up in the attachment of trying to make it that way. Even attachment to trying to be a good father, a good husband, a good business owner, like, you know, attachment to all those things, because then, I have a good friend that would tell me, because, during the divorce and after the divorce, it's like, man, I was just like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, I had all this juggling and now I can't juggle anything. I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do. Right. And so I'm trying to fix it. Like, I'm trying to get back into like having the drive and having the all of that, just trying to have like, find something to like hold on to, something to just like, to feel better, really, and she told me, but it's like, it's all this efforting that is making you not feel good. So you don't see it.
Yeah.
But from the outside perspective, that's why you don't, have you heard of Michael Singer?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he wrote Surrender Experiment. He's really, really good stuff if anybody out there is interested in it. But he was saying a lot of times we'll find out that like we're in like a foot of water and we're splashing around and we're like trying to not drown. And the thing that's causing us to drown is to try to not drown. Like, when we could just like stand up and say, look at this.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, we're creating our own problems because we're trying to by stating that we're not something, we're creating the problem, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a good father. Well, it's like, well, maybe you just are what you are. And if you stop trying so hard to be it, you will be it.
Yeah.
And it's just a trippy thing that I've got to remind myself of all the time, because it's just definitely a pattern for me to fall into, is the trying to do something, trying to be a different way, when back to the Buddhist thing, the compassion for yourself, even of accepting just like how you feel in the moment is okay. Right.
Yeah,
because trying to fix that is going to cause the splashing.
Yeah. God's grant me a serenity to accept things I cannot change. I mean, and the courage to know the difference. Oh, sorry, I just screwed it up a little bit, but I mean, there's a saying, a prayer in AA, right, about that, accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? And that's a very powerful statement in itself, to know the difference between what I can and cannot change.
Yeah.
I think just being present, though, I think really change, like, not, like you said, not setting expectations to be like, I need to be this, like, Instagram worthy father or husband or whatever. Just being there, as being present is fine.
Well, and that's like, for the father example, that's one of the things Michael Singer says is like, how do you be a good parent? You think it's by reading all these books that tell you to do all these different things and then forcing yourself to do those things, and then like, oh, I couldn't do that, and the book told me I was supposed to. Now I'm all pissed and I'm stressed and I'm worried, and it's like, no. He says, you don't need to read any of those. All you have to do is let yourself be there and serve each situation as it comes up to the best of your ability. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't need to learn anything. If the child is upset and you're in a grocery store and you're like, oh, I got to stop this child from being upset. He's embarrassing me and all this kind of stuff. That's your crap. That's not your kid's crap.
Yeah.
And being a good parent would be to handle that situation in a perspective of not trying to make yourself feel better and trying to not be embarrassed and trying to control your child. I don't know. I think we're taking this into, like, I'm taking it too far into.
Well, I think you take that right back to your business, though, because it's the same thing. You have to allow them to be in the moment, the team where they're at and where the business is where it's at. If you force everything in your business and you're forcing things down your business, you're never going to get any results. It goes back to the very first thing we talked about with marketing. You're forcing all these different marketing channels, right? The whole time, instead of just being really good at being present in the moment with one marketing channel and fully immersing yourself into that thing and tracking and understanding how you get really good at that one thing in the moment, and stop looking at this guy's doing this deal, this guy's doing it this way, this guy's doing it that way, right? How do I just be in the moment with what I'm doing? How do I run this through fruition until I find out that it really doesn't work?
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, honestly. So everything comes full circle. So tell me about your CRM. Why is your CRM better than everybody else's CRM?
Because it's the 9th iteration, man. It's, it's better because we took a different approach. So in this one, we said, let's stop making assumptions about what all needs to be in here, that it needs to have more features than everything else. Because the real problem is just that these these CRMs have gotten away from what they're even for, right? We had to look at what the heck did I ever even build one for in the first place for me to do? That was to organize my business so that no leads slip through the cracks, and then that I was able to do follow-up. I mean, that's the core, right? And so we did that. We said, let's just make sure that we are the best at this, and we make it simple so that you don't have to sign up, watch a bunch of videos, go through a bunch of training, spend weeks getting your team on board, and then having to always answer questions about how to use this thing instead of just doing deals. And so we did that. I mean, we did the hard work to say, hey, let's do this in a different way. So it's like you know how everybody's got like a whiteboard in their office,
Yeah.
you know, investors, and like you can see where your deals are at any given moment. Like that's how we built it, as sort of like a Trello or Pipe Drive, where you have like your workflows visual and you drag and drop as a lead goes through your workflow, you move it through, and it's all very visual.
Nice. Yeah, they got too bulky. Like we still use Podio. We're working on that right now, and we're looking at different things, but it's just bulky. It's bulky, and there's a lot of buttons to click, and there's a lot of things to do, and it's just bulky.
Yeah, and then how I was talking about 90, how I liked how they did the KPIs week over week.
Yeah.
So we're doing stats and things that way as well. And so what's really nice, because I got sick and tired of having to pull my numbers and put them into 90. And it was like, why not just the CRM? Forefront already has all of that data. It can just populate that for me. So I just have to look at it. So now in real time, I'm seeing those numbers week over week or month over month.
Yeah.
And then also like a funnel view. So if you want to look at this campaign, like during this time, we spent this much, we got this many leads. What happened over time with all those leads?
Yeah.
Because if you're looking week over week, you could have appointments that were set from leads that came in 3 weeks before.
Yeah.
So you have to look at both views, right? You see the trend, but then you also see from this marketing source or this group of marketing sources, channels, like what number of leads came in, how many appointments, how many offers, how many deals, all that kind of stuff. So it's, I don't know. It's just a really good way to keep on top of like what's going on with everything.
Yeah, because if it's difficult, the team doesn't put it in. They don't do it. If it's hard to use, they don't do it. And if they don't do it, then you can't track any of that shit. Because you have to do it, right? You have to make sure. Like I literally have a VA when I'm not taking seller calls anymore, but I have a VA that would listen to my seller calls and make notes for me in Podio because I won't go make notes. I wouldn't go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. We have the call recordings and all that stuff come into the system too. So the lead has all the text, all the calls, all that stuff attached to it. So really cool. And then the owners don't like to get in a lot of times. If you have a team, you're not in the software all the time. So we have like an end of day report that gets emailed out.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Cause my guy just puts in there like Elliot, like there's only, cause I got all these notifications. Elliot needs to respond. So every day I just got to go look to Elliot's needs to respond. And that's all I have to do.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, That's interesting.
Yeah. Awesome, Forefront CRM. If anybody's interested in checking it out, we'll book a demo. We'll show it to you real quick, show you the power of it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it too. I'd like to hop on because I've been looking at some other ones as well. I know, have my sales manager hop on and take a look at it and see as well.
Yeah, I'll send you a link over.
All right, cool. Awesome, man. Well, this took a little bit, it always tends to with me, take a different turn. And I think we got a lot of really good stuff out of this. If people listen to this, I always say, listen to it a couple of times, but I think not only on the business side, but the personal side and integrating those things and how do you, people that you might think are just perfect are always struggle. Everybody has their struggles. And so how do you deal with that? So I really appreciate you being open and I really enjoyed this. And at the end of the day, I don't care if numbers go down or listens, because I'm getting so much out of this show. I'm enjoying it. So thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. I was just thinking the same things. A lot of things I need to hear end up coming out in these conversations.
Yeah, I know.
I needed to hear a lot of the stuff that was said today. So I'll probably go back and listen to it again too. Cause there's if you're listening to it, there's probably a reason why you found the podcast and you're listening to it. You needed to hear something too, right? Like it's cool. I love it.
Cool. Awesome, man. All right. Well, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, man. Yep.